who's wearing a pink striped shirt, is fulfilling the role of Pink Diamond. Steven...
Wait, so you're telling me they had the Pink Diamond twist in a t-shirt 5 years before it happened? We gotta see this.
It's pretty common for productions to make some sort of shirt or jacket specifically for the crew that works on it. And in 2013, the year the show premiered, the Crewniverse had their own special shirt that featured the main Force gemstones, isolated from their forms. And it was quite interesting that Steven's gem, which we only see from a right-side-up perspective in the show, looked more like a diamond than a quartz. Although the crew themselves never drew direct attention to the shirt, a couple of them made some public appearances wearing it, and theorists definitely noticed.
It's one of those things that it was such an open secret for the crew. In the writing stages for the episodes, we would put a lot of Easter eggs in, for us.
When I would see people react to episodes, I would forget that was something that they didn't already know, because it's like the missing piece that makes all of the things make sense.
While it felt like concrete evidence that Rose was Pink Diamond, people were still able to argue against it, thanks to some bubble gems in the burning room having similar cuts to the diamonds. Lo and behold, after a single Poe Rose aired on TV and the cat was out of the bag, Joe Johnson confirmed on Tumblr that this shirt was always intended to hide.
Our crew shirt from 2013 is one of my favorite shirts, and I can finally point to why. Damn. I see why.
The truth in plain sight. The answer was out there 5 whole years before it hit our television screens. It's crazy to think that, for half a decade, someone in LA could have just been on a quick grocery run, walked past a random Crewniverse member who just threw on this shirt to do the same thing, and made a big U.S. boiled. Force and Pearl really are just like Batman, except instead of family dynamic, a hideout located in a cave where Rose stored a majority of the Crystal Gems equipment. If you aren't convinced that this was a Batman reference, and thus another clue towards Rose's former identity, there's a giant penny in the arm.
You know where Batman stored all his weapons, the super car? Same thing where Rose stored all the weapons and everything that the gems used to fight off other corrupted gems.
Something that Joe included as a nod towards Batman.
Pearl is excited to show Steven Rose's Batcave. That cave, like her secret base of operations, which is literally why we put the giant penny in there.
Onion Gang is written off as one of the most forgettable episodes of the show, as it's a rather uneventful one about Onion's friends that's a part of a long stretch of episodes without any sort of advancement of the homeworld storyline. I do think this episode holds some value, as it has one of the craziest pieces of Pink Diamond foreshadowing. Is that Frisk Undertale? Onion's friends whip up a makeshift vehicle and go on a joyride before staging a car accident that results in Garbanzo's fake death. The little dude even smears ketchup on his face to sell the bit. Somehow, Steven takes all of this at face value and really believes that Garbanzo kicked the bucket, needing to be clued in on what's really happening. This is a pretty obvious allusion to Pink Diamond staging her shattering. The vehicle Onion and friends make is the Pelican, and Garbanzo, who's wearing a pink striped shirt, is fulfilling the role of Pink Diamond. Steven, who's more gullible than usual in this instance, represents the world at large. It's actually a bit of double foreshadowing as Pinto pretends to bring Garbanzo back to life, telegraphing what would happen with Steven and Lars in the next season. Pinto being the youngest and smallest of the group, just like Steven. Does any of this make the episode marginally better? Nope. It'll probably still be something everyone skips on rewatch. But honestly, being such an overlooked episode makes the inclusion of this all the more hilarious. 2 huge plot points spelled out in plain sight, and most people won't even notice it because Onion episodes aren't everyone's cup of tea. And this is a few episodes
I never even thought anything about that. Going deep and down on an Onion episode, you wouldn't even think anything about that make any sense to connect. You would never thought about that.
Away from the much more exciting Steven's dream. On the surface, you're meant to take this as the Crystal Gems reinventing themselves and breaking free from their intended purposes. But coming back to this song after the Heart of the Crystal Gems arc, it's clear Pearl was referring to Pink Diamond reinventing herself and becoming Rose Quartz, something that Pearl directly had a hand in. 3 Gems and a Baby has some more in-your-face allusions to the diamonds with Greg and Steven. Greg unbuttons the middle of baby Steven's suit to let his gem breathe, causing the exposed area to be in the shape of a diamond. diamond. Pretty self-explanatory. And while Greg's blue cloth will remind people of the Virgin Mary, you could also argue that he resembles Blue Diamond, who, alongside Yellow and White, played the role of a parental figure to Pink Diamond. Although it's no secret that Greg was a way better caretaker to Steven than the Diamonds ever were to Pink. Greg and Blue Diamond would meet in the very next episode, bonding over their grief. So I definitely think they were double-dipping with the imagery here. Also, the shot of Pearl almost removing Steven's gem has the exact same composition as the shot of White Diamond removing it in Change Your Mind. This was absolutely meant to be identical imagery, and it's pretty spooky. This video is sponsored by the most colorful earbuds on the market, Ray-Con. The gem. I more aware of my surroundings. Neat. I truly adore my Ray-Cons. They have the easiest pairing process in the world. Their sleek design and array of colors set them apart from table to get 20%. But I feel like I need to include it anyway. The Say Uncle foreshadowing. Uncle Grandpa tells Steven that he should get his gem polished at least twice a year, which apparently is a rule that applies to real-life diamonds. Now, not to rain on everyone's parade, but Rebecca Sugar and Joe Johnston actually confirmed on the Steven Universe podcast that this wasn't intentional on their end, but there's a chance that one of the outline writers, Matt Burnett, co-creator of Craig of the Creek, might have slipped in.
People ask Steven's gem being polished twice a year. I haven't gotten to ask you this yet. Is that a reference to a diamond on purpose?
Polishes twice.
I
think we came up with that in the room.
Well, maybe I wonder diamond, so I'm not going to take credit for that.
So
I never
Sugar themselves doesn't think it's foreshadowing, but they didn't completely dismiss the idea that stopping you. It's not like people are going to stop reposting this image anytime soon. Steven Universe does a great job of challenging the viewer on the truth behind Rose Quartz's identity by providing conflicting information surrounding her origins. The truth is spelled out to us all the way back in Rose's scabbard when she tells Pearl this solidifies that Rose was, at the very least, made on Homeworld. But Season 3 onwards tries to push a narrative that she was made on Earth in episodes like Bismuth, Earthlings, and Your Mother and Mine. It's something that viewers can only buy into if they forget about that conversation in Rose's scabbard, which definitely happened, as this was pretty early in the series compared to everything else. Last but not least for this round of Pink Diamond foreshadowing is a pretty straightforward bit for Mirror Gem. When Pearl explains how the mirror works, that it sports the ability to show the user important moments throughout Era 1, all Steven sees is his reflection, as Lapis is refusing to cooperate with Pearl, prompting Steven to say, of course he's right, as not only does he hold Pink Diamond's gem, but he ends up changing Gem Society as we know it by getting through to White Diamond and ushering in Era 3, which saw Homeworld disband its armies, dismantle its colonies, and give gems the freedom to do whatever they want.
Yes, with Steven, bro, Steven is like the main source of everything. Steven don't like how corrupted gems are. He don't like it where...
All thanks to Steven. The episode's Off Colors and Lars's Head gives us a look at Homeworld's abandoned kindergarten. Different sections of the kindergarten belong to different courts, as indicated by a line next to the corresponding diamond. Lo and behold, the Off Colors are hiding out in Pink Diamond section of the kindergarten, which is poetic, as not only was Pink considered to be out of place when compared to the other three diamonds, but also because her area seemed to have the most imperfections. Check out the exit holes. So many of them overlap with each other, implying that for one reason or another, Pink's court produced a lot of off colors, presumably those like the Rutile twins. The implications of this might be
about the kindergarten, right, y'all? It's like when you grow in the kindergarten, it don't matter how your shape is, you come out that same way as your actual shape. They were born.
Further explored in Large of the Stars, as the original series didn't really shed light on it, but I remember noticing this detail and thinking that it fed into the narrative that Pink herself might have been considered defective or off-color. That, whether by coincidence or sabotage, the gems created to serve her were just as flawed as she was. Something backed up by the Beta Kindergarten, and the fact that Jasper was hailed as a miracle child, the best quartz ever produced on Earth, among a majority that was treated as lesser than their peers. That's just my interpretation, though. And I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. Same Old World sees Lapis reveal her tragic backstory to Steven. She was assigned to help terraform Earth for a short period of time before finding herself trapped in the midst of the Gem War. Despite having no desire to fight, Lapis was struck from behind and pooped by a very familiar gem with rainbow dreadlocks and an N on their chest. That's right.
No business then destroy Lapis. No business didn't do it. She didn't do it right.
Be up to it probably duking it out with plenty of Lapises during the war, but it still felt like a bit of wasted potential, considering that the two ended up getting pretty close with one another. Although the crystal gems weren't the ones who put Lapis in the mirror, Business still played a role in her lighting up in this situation. Having this go unaddressed feels like there's a major elephant in the room whenever the two are on screen. Maybe they can do something with it in Lars of the Stars, but I think the moment's passed. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a fusion was caught in the corruption blast? Would they unfuse and corrupt into two separate creatures? Or would they stay together throughout the process? Well, we actually have the answer. They would corrupt as one being. We know this because
when she actually got proof, there was like no like separate gemstone or no like gemstone going. Dang. See, this is the reason why it's hard to actually understand about corrupted gems and everything. To me, it is definitely hard to understand.
Canon to the series. After a long battle with the crystal gems that concluded with Hessenite accepting that she's not a good fit for the light prism, forcing it to carry out orders that it doesn't want to do, Hessenite flees and does some soul searching. Returning in the next video game, Unleash the Light, as a reformed vigilante who allies with the crystal gems to foil her fellow Garnet's plans. Hessenite's a really entertaining character who, post-redemption, reminds me a lot of Gohan's Great Saiyaman persona from Dragon Ball. And I really hope she pops up in Lars of the Stars, as she'd be a great ally for the off-colors to have. It's the best way to get her on people's radar, as the light games have been delisted and thus aren't nearly as accessible as they used to be. Even though the ultimate crystal gem fusion, Obsidian, didn't appear until the final episode of the original series, a lot of fans already figured out that their weapon would be a giant.
Well, seeing it never appear until the last episode. Like, we got to see so much other different fusion from the actual crystal gem and Steven, but a scene never appeared until the final. A scene is like all Garnet, Pearl, Steven, and Amethyst all into one big giant thing.
Anime sword all the way back in season 1. How? Well, everyone already pieced together that the temple depicted the fusion of the whole team after Giant Woman introduced the concept. But Obsidian's weapon of choice made a couple of appearances in Bubble Buddies and Ocean Gem. It can be inferred that the statue was originally holding a giant replica of the sword, but eventually this prop fell into the ocean as a few of the statue's arms eroded away with time. So when Steven and Connie are navigating through the water while stuck in Steven's bubble, the duplicate sword can be spotted in the background, although it's only a glimpse. We later get a much clearer view of the sword in all its glory after Lapis steals the ocean, as it's spotted directly to the east of the temple. This show is always playing the long game. Even now, there are things in the original series.
There's so much things that Steven Universe is like having in there that you will never know they're actually in the show. Like it be right there in your eye, right there in front of your face, and you'd be like, dang. Like once you spot it, you'll actually be mind blown from it. That's crazy.
A movie and in future that probably won't be elaborated on until Lars of the Stars. From the origins of the diamonds to Pink's lost treasures. Rebecca Sugar has to be insanely patient, man. Sitting on this stuff throughout the course of a decade is not easy. Pink Diamond made her vow to never speak about what really happened to her. That the two staged her shattering in order to end the war and deter Homeworld from colonizing Earth. Due to this command, Pearl's hands involuntarily cover her mouth whenever she's at risk of divulging information. But how many times has this actually happened in the series? Because there are a lot of instances where Pearl covers her mouth, but that doesn't mean it's because she's about to spill the beans. She covers them and it could have been great when the gems see what a fully colonized Earth would look like, and she does it in Bismuth. After Eyeball claims that she saw Rose shatter Pink Diamond, Steven turns to Garnet and Pearl, the latter of whom immediately covers her mouth and starts shaking. This one is pretty blatant, as Eyeball doesn't realize she's spouting nonsense, but Pearl does.
On most of the episode in Steven Universe.
And as much as she wants to come clean at this very moment, she simply can't, which just leads Steven to believe that his mom really did abandon the Crystal Gem's moral code and claim a diamond's life in order to end the war. The next instance is in Steven's dream. Pearl covers her mouth after Steven inquires about the Pelican and laments that the gems said they'd tell him everything moving forward, only to go back on their word as soon as something Pink Diamond related pops up. With the Pelican being the site where Pink staged her shattering, it'd be hard for Pearl to talk about it without coming clean.
It would.
So, Her hands keep her silent.
To me,
At the end of I Am My Mom, Steven
if
reveals
I was
himself
like
as
Pearl.
Rose Quartz and surrenders to Homeworld. As he's being taken away in
Yep.
Aquamarine's ship, Pearl cries out his name before involuntarily covering her mouth. She was ready to tell the truth out of sheer desperation, wanting to protect Steven at any cost. But alas, her vow forbade her from taking any action. It's actually really sad to think about, especially because she was probably blaming herself for Steven surrendering. The 2017 San Diego Comic-Con poster features the crystal gems paralyzed with fear as the diamonds loom over them. Lo and behold, Pearl's covering her mouth here too. This poster was for Season 5 in particular, so the Crewniverse was definitely alluding to the events of A Single Pale Rose. Last but not least is Gemcation, which is the most on-the-nose Pearl's vow has ever been since it's the last time it happens before the big reveal. Pearl tries to force herself to explain everything to Steven, only to find herself at war with her own body. Not that it really matters to Steven, as all of his attention is on Connie, who's gone ghost on the boy. It definitely seems like they didn't iron out the idea of Pearl.
Jim and then calling in a ball, like, it's so much that Steven gotta deal with.
Misunderstood, so misunderstood. My temper is bad, my mission is good. I never be labeled as good. I never be labeled as mentally stable. They